Hello, everybody. Good evening. Welcome along to post-match reaction, immediate post-match reaction on the Rangers Rabble podcast. Athletic Bilbao 2, Rangers 0. That is Rangers season effectively, officially over. Nothing left to play for. Plenty to discuss though, and I'll discuss that in the company of Connor and Kenny. That was me. That wasn't me huffing at you two there, by the way. That was just me. That was just me huffing. Connor, Kenny, welcome. Hello, everybody. In the comments, please get your comments in. Let us know what you thought of the game. I'll get as many comments up as I possibly can. Like, share, and subscribe, and all that stuff. Kenny. Will we just go straight into it? Will we just go straight into what everybody wants to talk about? How have we not got a penalty, mate? How have we not got a penalty? How have we not got 2 penalties, Kenny?
That first one is, we spoke about it off air there just for a couple of brief minutes, and I think we all agree, fine, give me all your bullshit about the referee didn't see it and whatever else, but your VAR has got to wonder why the guy's shirt, and as Connor correctly said, his sponsorship, his shirt is missing for the front end, his top and his belly showing. Does he think that just happens naturally? So clearly he goes down for the penalty anyway, so it should be at least looked at. I'm not saying that, we'd all be still arguing if he didn't give it, but at least the VAR has to go and look at that and why his top's ripped right off. By the way, before it all starts about sour grapes, right, we've got to talk about the incidents in the game, and that was a very important incident at the start before anybody had scored anything yet.
Game-changing, Kenny.
It was game-changing. So the disappointment started there because the ref didn't even say, or the VAR didn't say to the referee, you need to go and see that, because he's ripped the shirt right off his back. And if you look at it slower, Dessers is actually becoming 50-50 with the keeper to get it. So it has to be looked at. But I'm gobsmacked at why it wasn't even checked, and it was basically just pulled away. And if you watch Dessers' reaction, he can't get his head round it. Why is nobody looking at this? I've no t-shirt, and now you're telling me to go over to the side of the park and get a new top on. What do you think's happened? The fucking seagulls flew down and ate my t-shirt. What do you think's happened? So yeah, mate, honestly, I'm furious about that decision. Absolutely furious.
It's not just a penalty, Connor, it's a red card as well. He's last man. He's made no attempt to play the ball. No double jeopardy when he's made no attempt to play the ball. That's what the rule was brought in for, so that defenders didn't make challenges like that. But if they at least made the attempt to play the ball, then it was just a yellow and a penalty. That completely changes the game. Now, before you come in, Connor, and as Kenny rightly says, Athletic were a better team. See if we had just not been given a penalty, and like I say, it would have been a yellow card. Then you can take a sit back and you can go, well, we might or might not have scored the penalty. If we still had 11 men in the park, it would have still been a relatively tight, close game. When it's a decision like that, though, Connor, and let's put our hands up and be brutally honest. We needed all the luck in the world tonight to go through, because they are a better football team than us. They were at home. They had all the advantages. Final in their stadium. Blah, blah, feckin' blah. When you put that all together, that is the moment that we needed, and we didn't get it.
Well, yeah, of course it is. You need every ounce of luck you can get to go your way in games like that. We can talk at length to the cows come home about, how good or average or whatever Bilbao are. They are technically, as Kenny said before the game, a better side than us. And so you're going to have to work your socks off. You're going to have to create chances. You're going to have to get luck. These are all the components you need. And across both ties, you have to say we've had absolutely zero luck. You get down to 10 men the last time in the first leg after 13 minutes. Kibosh is any real opportunity to try and score at home at least and get a foothold in the game going over there. But you go over 0-0 and you think, well, we're still in it. But it was always going to be tight. The issue is, with decisions like that, I cannot understand. And this is the thing, right? Champions League, unlike the Premier League and even the Scottish Premiership, it's not like there's a VAR review show where we'll hear the audio you're at. UEFA are very much a closed shop. They're not interested in immersing fans more into the game and making fans aware of what's going on. Because I'd like to hear the conversation, or lack of, that took place. That decision was made so quickly, it's not real. How can VAR, the referee maybe can make that mistake. If there was no VAR tonight, it was just the referee, it wouldn't be as bad a decision, I don't think, although it'd still be the wrong one. But how can VAR look at that, see that Desser's shirt is ripped clean off him, the sponsorship is gone, and not go, pause the game, ref, we need to take a look at this and have a proper VAR review of this because we need to understand what's happened there. I cannot understand for the life of me why that's not happened. It's baffling, Kenny. What is the point? And fans have had frustrations with VAR up and down Europe and the world over since its introduction, right? But what is the point in having a tool like VAR there to have people sitting in there not doing their job properly when the situation demands for it? I'm not sure what's happened to the gaffer, but I just can't get that. I really can't. Why do we have it then? If you're not going to bother looking at it, then why do we have it? And then Dessers gets booked. The referee books Dessers.
That's what I'm saying, mental.
Because, yes, Dessers obviously points out, ref, fucking shirt has been ripped. He's had to go out and get it changed.
Mm-hmm.
But he walked back on the pitch and the ref booked him straight away. Why? Why is Dessers getting booked? And as Martin rightly points out, he didn't make an attempt to get the ball to the defender, so that has to be a straight red as well. I personally think in that situation, the VAR officials have absolutely bottled it, in my opinion.
I'll be honest. I'll be honest, and I'm not one for all this corruption nonsense. I never have been. I've always argued against it in Scotland. Telling you right now, that's the other way about. That's a penalty and a red card. Telling you right now, other way about, Kenny. That is 100% given as a penalty, and 100% the Rangers defenders sent off.
So there's a couple of the comments saying there that Ali's on the telly going mental, but rightly so, because it's a complete injustice, right? Now listen, I'm going to say it again. We're not saying that Rangers would have won the game there, right? For anybody watching, we're just bloody furious that didn't even get checked, because that was at a 0-0. That was at a time where we weren't going to get a lot of chances. We'd managed to get into the box. The guy gets his t-shirt ripped right off his back, and the referee doesn't even look, or VAR sitting there and record. I mean, they would have had to look at it. So we know they've bottled it. I mean, if you listen closely, you can hear the wee wheelie wheels on their seats or sliding all over the room, trying to see who's going to deal with it, and they've all shat it, and not one of them wanted to make a decision on it because they don't want to make that decision on Bilbao. So you can say about the discrepancies or conspiracies or whatever you want, but that has blatantly been overlooked. And it's
the thing is, it's not even. Sorry, Kerry. I was just going to say, it's not even just that in the game. The referee's whole performance, officiant-wise, look at the stats. They don't lie. 15 fouls were committed by Bilbao tonight. They get one booking for 15 fouls. 9 apparently were committed by us, and we got 3. Now, one of those bookings was the one I just mentioned for Dessers that I don't know what you get booked for. The other 2 bookings for Rangers, I'll take that in the chin. They're both bookings.
Look at the John Suter one, mate, when that guy into the deck.
Exactly. No yellow card. How? This is what I don't get, Martin. It's like Bilbao were being refereed and officiated to different standards to Rangers tonight. Now, again, we'll talk about the ins and outs of the game, and nobody's saying Rangers would have done this, that, or the next thing if certain decisions go away. But you can't have a refereeing performance where one team sees yellow cards for a third of the challenges they put in, and the other team gets 1 yellow card from 15. Now, even if you see 5 or 6 of them aren't bookings, fine. But there was a number of them that definitely should have been. Even earlier in the game, there was one, I think it was a foul. I can't remember if it was Raskin or it might have been Hadji actually trying to go forward. Or sorry, Cherny was trying to go forward, and he's taken, pulled back. Now, again, and then the one that Kenny talks about with Suter, not even a foul. Not even a yellow card. Doesn't really speak to him. How? That official tonight, absolutely disgraceful performance, and it served no purpose to anybody, a performance like that. I'm sorry, and as I say, people can talk about us bumping and moaning and say it's sour grapes. Look at the stats, and you tell me that looks correct. 1 booking to 15 fouls versus 3 to 9 fouls. I mean, who are we kidding on here, boys? Do you know what I mean? Let's be honest.
Do you know what? I've heard this argument before, right? And I've always went, fucking absolute nonsense, right? I've heard it before, and I'm about to make it, right? So, their penalty, right at the end of the first half, which effectively kills the tie, right? For me, yep, Kenny. Yeah, I do think it's a penalty, right? And again, I'm making this argument knowing that I've told people to shut up in the past for making this argument, right? It's not a clear and obvious penalty for me. It's one of those ones where you need to have a wee quick think about it. The referee could not give it quick enough, Kenny.
Yeah, there is that. At first, I was exactly the same as you, Martin. But when you watch it again, he's right next to it. He's right at it, and Suter had just basically nonchalantly thought he had time to just touch it because he didn't take a swipe at it. He was just putting his foot onto it to take it away. And the guy's come round his blind side and nipped in, and he's took him instead of the ball. And it was a bit clumsy. But if you look where the ref is, you're right. He was very fast about giving it, and he didn't wait to see if it was a VAR or anything like that. But he was actually pretty close to where it happened, and that's just my personal opinion. And you're right, it was a penalty. I know you've got onto the second one goal, and for me, that's the thing that killed the tie.
Yeah. I will just say, Jim Sloan, another super chat. Thank you very much, Jim. Simple explanation. This is obviously a penalty we didn't get. Simple explanation. It happened at the wrong end of the pitch, and I 100% concur. And I don't usually agree with stuff like that, but tonight I absolutely have. There's no other explanation for me. There's no other explanation for me. And Aldo as well. Sorry, Connor, 2 minutes. Aldo as well with a super chat. Thank you very much, Aldo. Small to say, it was a penalty and a red card as he made no attempt to win the ball, and we think Scottish football is corrupt. Well, I don't think Scottish football is corrupt, right? But yeah, there's no, and we're going to move on for a wee second because there was a lot more that happened in that game, Connor, that had nothing to do with the referee and everything to do with player and manager decisions.
There was another penalty decision that you felt as well, but
yeah. Like I say, we'll finish on the penalty that we didn't get. There's no other explanation, Connor. Can you try take your blue tinted specs off, take your lens of football specs off, and give me a reason as to why it wasn't even looked at?
I can't, no, because all logic dictates that should be looked at. He's not made an attempt to get the ball. You can clearly see the arm going across Dessers. Now, I genuinely think that what the club will need to do, and it will start with Barry hopefully tonight, is they need to ask the questions. Look, the game's done, it's over, we're out. And you know what happens, Martin? Rangers, are they allowed to ask questions about any decision making? Because as soon as Rangers ask questions about decision making, there's a pile on us as a club. That's just what happens. We get called statement at FC and all that. Even though, let's be honest, we don't actually call out anywhere near enough bad decisions, quite frankly, at times. But you look at that and you go, UEFA have got to provide an explanation why that's not a penalty kick, not just for Rangers, but for the teams that are left in the competition. Because if UEFA are going to say you can just do that, you can rip somebody's shirt half off their back, make no attempt to get the ball, and it won't be a penalty kick, then I expect to see that happen on numerous occasions in the semi-final ties that take place, because that's not a penalty, Martin. You know, that's the precedent that they are setting with decision making like that. So they're going to have to explain. They probably will release some sort of cockamamie statement. I think they might come and turn around and say, well, they didn't give it because they felt that Dessers wasn't going to get there. Now, if that's the case, that's just utter guesswork. That's all that is. That's not what VAR's there for. It's not a guess. It's there to make decisions, and it failed to do so tonight. I know you felt a bit about the second one, a potential handball. I don't think that's conclusive, but again, VAR.
That's his hand.
Well, VAR should be slowing down the angles to show us whether it did or didn't. I couldn't see. But the speed it was played,
it looked fairly clear to me in the replay, and then they just blanked it out and never showed it again, which says to me everything I need to know. Yeah, possible. If it hit, by the way, if it does hit his hand, then with the precedent they set last week with Dujon Sterling's penalty, then it would have to be a penalty kick if it hits his hand. All I'm saying is they didn't show enough clear camera angle for me to make a full judgment call on it. But again, I'll reiterate, I'm not sitting in the VAR room. I don't have the luxury. I've been able to play that back multiple times in slow motion. They do. And that's what their job is. Again, it's about a lack of VAR doing what it's there to do. And this is something that football clubs are paying a lot of money for across Europe.
and it cannot get decisions that are basic, clear and obvious decisions correct. That is a massive concern.
Yeah. Mel, Super Chat channel member, thank you very much. Thanks to everyone watching tonight. Keep supporting the Rangers rabble. You can do that just by simply liking the show and subscribing, and you can further support us by becoming a member and getting access to extra shows and being able to comment on our afternoon rabbles as well, and loads of extra stuff. Right, okay. Right, we've got the anger away from the absolute joke of decisions tonight, Kenny.
I did have until that's why I was looking. They decided to show that penalty about 3 times in a row when you were talking, and I'm going, you must be joking. Yeah, and I need to change the subject because once I've just watched it again where the referee was standing, why, good God.
Yes, I know. But let's have a wee look at our own team. Let's have a look at our own manager and ask, what went wrong there, Kenny?
I don't think his positional intelligence was merited what he done tonight, if I'm honest. He allowed a lot of gaps for where they started, and there was too much respect given to that team, which didn't need it. So if you're going to ask them to come into us, I think we were about 10 to 12 yards off each marker, which allowed Bilbao to play football round about us. It's coaching kids, man. They know the way I do, and I'm watching that. I'm going, really? I mean, I started seeing it with Hadji when he was trying to keep off the right winger, and every time the ball was going from right to left, our players were taking probably, it was about a minute or two to react until they knew the ball was going to go to these certain places. So there was pockets everywhere for Bilbao to start picking. The substitutions, he's absolutely right, Jimbo. It was quite weird to watch what he was doing with them. And that could be, it's an enormous game in a place where he's played in, yes, but he hasn't managed that. And it did show for me that the substitutions were wrong. Some of them he was forced because injuries, I get it. But the gaps that was in the play and the no pressing and allowing them to run up. I mean, they were allowing other players to try and cause us damage apart from Nico Williams, and it just tells you everything, because in the first leg they tried to use him constantly, whereas this time they were all getting joy, so they were happy to move it from right to left, from centre to left to right to centre, and you're going, why the hell are you not closing these players down? And we feel as if we had nothing left, and this was getting into the end of the first half, and I'm going, what's going on? And then obviously when Barron come on, I honestly, no offence to the wee man, I mean, he's a human being, but I felt it was an empty shirt. He'd done a lot of running, but there was no much else that came for it either.
No, and Connor, to be fair, I think we've seen tonight where Barry's and the coaching staff's managerial level is, and it isn't quite where we need it to be. There wasn't a lot of people, to be fair, that were in the Barry needs to get the job, but there was still questions being asked. You know, will Barry be the Rangers manager next season? I know that Mr. Jackson of the Record is choking for him to get the job, and we all know why. Mr. Jackson of the Record wants Barry to get the job, Connor. But tonight just proved that even with managers such as Billy Dodds and even Neil McCann, who we all like the way he speaks when he's on Sports Scene and all that, just not at the level.
No, look, that is just, you know, it's the way it is. The fact is, look, what I would say, and I think we have to be careful of it, is that we're all very disappointed just now, right? We're angry at a lot of factors. I think had this been under different circumstances, had we gone out to a Europa League quarter-final, but we had a Scottish Cup semi-final to play at Hampden this weekend, I don't think we'd be as down on it, because there would still be something in the locker for us to play for, even if we were still out of the league, as we are. Mm-hmm. Because that's not the case, it amplifies it. And I think emotion comes in. I also think you can't forget the praise he got. Let's not forget, Martin, you talk about, it's the levels of it. He knocked Jose Mourinho out of the Europa League. He actually did get the better of Jose Mourinho with a stonking performance in Istanbul, and a very much different type of performance at Ibrox, a slightly poor but roll your sleeves up type performance to get through to extra time and then winning in penalties. So he has that under his belt. That's a notch for him hang in the bedpost, if you will. But I think, you know, ultimately, as you say, there are levels, and he's not obviously there yet. But at the same time, I don't. And look, there are mistakes that were made tonight. I totally agree with Kenny. By the way, I think at times that the positional side for me, I think what happened was this: we started having a few injury problems, which doesn't help you, right? Doesn't help that Ridvan has to come off after 25 minutes, right? That blatantly is not something that helps you. But you can make better decisions than what he did. I mean, I have to be honest. In Ciara, I thought he done okay the second half. You know, he's had a lot of flack this year for different reasons, but
Yeah.
I thought he looked fine. And I'm thinking, could that not have been the decision you made there? Why not bring Ciara on for Ridvan, put Tav out there out wide, and then you just go to a back four rather than shoehorning, you know, like a Conor Barron coming in, and then it's, you know, you're makeshift in the back three. And I get it. He's trying to be positive because he's trying to get us through. I just think that was a wrong call, a wrong decision. And then obviously, look, when Balogun went off and he had to bring Ciara on, I mean, you're snookered. I mean, what chance you got when your players are dropping with flies? So
it didn't help him, although albeit he'd have been happy about it. When he brought in Ciara on, it showed that he made the wrong sub.
Do you know, it did 100%, Martin.
It showed 100%. And by the way, not that it makes us feel any better. Had we went through tonight by some sort of miracle, there is absolutely zero chance we would have get past Lyon in the semi-final, who have came back for 2-0 down at Old Trafford to lead 4-2, and they've scored 2 goals with 10 men.
10 men, yeah. Can I just say, Martin, let's also not forget the fact, because we spoke about decisions and stuff, you talk about other bits of luck going their way. How unlucky is we Nico Raskin? I mean, inches.
Yeah.
It just, the keeper, to be fair to him, does what you should do as a keeper in that position, just spreads himself big and hopes that the ball hit off him. It did just about nick his rib cage basically and onto the post, and you just think, oh my goodness, you know, of all the and because a moment was always going to come in these games. You always get one big chance. It's the way football goes. There's always something that will fall to you. That was it, and when we missed that was at the point where I went, I think that's us had the moment, and that's disappointing. And I know we'll come on to it because I think what didn't help defensively either. Attacking wise, we were fairly poor.
I will just say quickly, by the way, that Bodo Glimt have scored.
Have they?
Which makes that Lazio 3, Bodo Glimt 1, 3-3 on aggregate there.
Wasn't Bodo Glimt in a semi-final, eh?
Well, Ange always wins something in his second year, he's told you.
But it always just twigged in my brain here, Martin, and which I'm now loving this. Bodo Glimt are the side, the Wi-Fi password that put Ange Postecoglou's Celtic out of the Conference League his first season there. Imagine they go and do the same thing at Spurs. I mean, do you know what?
Honestly, I can't believe you actually remembered that. That's just mental knowledge. I would never have remembered that. And apparently, man, you've got a penalty. Kenny, we'll come back to the manager in a wee minute, but let's just focus on the players for a second. Did they do enough? Were Bilbao just simply better, or could the players have done more?
No, we haven't got a striker that can hold the ball up. I don't know how many times I agreed with Alan McCoy all the way through that big balloon was always behind the defender. Every single bloody time the ball come up, he's dancing about like a fairy at a maypole behind the play. You've got to come and get the ball. And also in one of the only decent chances we had when Czerny skint the boy and floated it over the keeper's head, Dessers is, don't know what the hell he's doing, behind the defender. When if he goes blindside at the last minute, like every striker gets taught, you're sitting behind him at the last minute, go by him, you get round his blindside. He gets to that ball. Don't care what anybody says. He is close enough to blindside that defender. What does he do? He headers mid-air and flaps about. And the ball's cleared. And I'm saying, we haven't got the guy where you can put a ball right up in the air like Mark Catley. Take a chest, take a header, bring it down, Hodge, arms out, arse out, hold them off, have a look about and bring other players into play. Allow your midfielders to come up and allow your wingers to get up. We haven't got him. I'm sorry, Igaman's not that guy either. He really isn't. I was really disappointed in the forward play because when Diomande started getting a wee bit of a grasp on it, we were starting to fling some passes together. When the ball get put up to that forward line, it wasn't capable of holding the ball up to allow our players to get there. And that happened in many occasions. It was enough to make Ali say, I don't know how many times I'm saying this, Dessers, you need to make sure you're in front of the defender to collect the ball. Problem was, even when the 1 or 2 times he done it, he get bullied off it. So we haven't got that type of big, strong, bullying target man who can then allow your team to settle down. We have got a panic up front, so then that brings the ball back to the midfield. If it's creative midfielders that they've got, it now becomes a problem for your defensive mid and your defence, and then it just keeps coming back at you. And that's exactly where the problem lay as well, because we weren't going to get a lot of chances, right? It was never going to happen. But when you were getting the ball up the forward line, it's got to be held up and the ball's got to be used intelligently. And we weren't even doing that. And that's where the frustrations crept in. It's not the fact that the manager's bollocks. It's the fact that the players, their game intelligence seems to leave them sometimes, and our forward line isn't good enough to hold the ball up, especially tonight. So that's where I felt it started to fall apart. We really need somebody that can hold the ball up and allow a bit of a breather for our team and start to get a bit of collectivity. But we don't have that.
I mean, singing the blues, Kenny, you're my age. We were blessed with Haitley. We're not getting a Mark Haitley at Rangers anymore. That's just no going to happen. But did the midfield, did the midfield let Dessers down? Connor, moving Diamande to fullback. Absolutely killed. Do you know, as soon as we moved Diamande to fullback, it kind of nullified Hadji in the game as well.
It certainly did, yeah. I mean, the thing is, though, I mean, Kenny's hit the nail on the head as far as Dessers' performance. I mean, the midfield, and again, the midfield for me needed to do better. What wasn't helping them was, and you've seen it in the last 10, 15 minutes of the game, when Nico Raskin absolutely screaming at Dessers because he's trying to play in a pass to him, and Dessers is the wrong side of the defender, so he's not going to get it. The only way they're getting it to Dessers tonight is to play unbelievable wonder passes in behind off the shoulder and hoping that Dessers stays on side, which is not something that happens very often when he makes those runs. So quite rightly, Nico's having a pop at him because he's gone, for fuck's sake, big man, any chance? Do you know what I mean? And I think that frustrated him. But you're right. I mean, Diamande, going back into defence, to be fair to him, it wasn't like he made any absolutely glaring error that went and cost us anything by being in defence. It just wasn't.
No, but he was the best player in the middle of the park.
Oh, exactly right. That's what I'm saying. So I can't quite. Again, it's one of those decisions that Barry's made in the moment, maybe out of a bit of desperation, thinking I need to shuffle the deck because a couple of players have gone off or whatever. I can't get it, and that's something that it's panic decisions. He must have changed the shape 3 or 4 times throughout the game. At one point, he hands instructions to Eggman to go over to give to Tav. Tav can't even read his fucking handwriting, so he has to go and actually speak to him because he's looked at it and went, I don't know what that means. So he's walked in and told Barry, any chance, mate? Why fellas in here? Either that or he looked at it and went, you can't be fucking serious, Barry. You want me to do that? But either way, it did show a bit of a naivety in Barry Ferguson as a manager. Absolutely it did. But that being said, there's moments in the game where we do get a bit of possession in the ball, but it's frantic and we give it away almost as quick as we win it back. Yeah. That doesn't help you. Connor Barron, wasteful tonight for me. Very wasteful when he came on.
Yeah, he was poor.
Raskin and Diamande, times done okay. Diamande was probably our best in the middle for a period. Czerny, to be fair to Czerny, he worked his socks off. He was trying. But again, the quality wasn't good enough. And there's moments, again, there was a moment where Czerny picks the ball about 25, 30 yards for the Bilbao goal. And he just runs across the face of the box and then opts to try and play the very delicate pass into Dessers when he's got, I think Diamande is making the run outside and wide. That's the pass you have to play there. Play it out wide to Diamande because he's running in the overlap. He'll be able to get down the byline there because there's space and then presumably cut it back across for somebody to maybe go in the end of it. So even things like that, you have to make the right decisions when you get it because no team, I don't care who you are, you could be Prime Galacticos. If you spend 90% of the game in your own half defending and you can't get out because when you get possession, you're not keeping it, it's very hard. But what I would say is, Kenny says we don't have that kind of hold-up style attacker. I think we kind of do in Eggman. I think that's more Eggman style than it is Dessers. Now, he's still very raw, I'll grant you that, and he's not fully there yet. He's not by no means. but he's more the type of player who will be in front of the defender trying to hold it up because he's happy to take it into feet and take people on. So I just wonder, maybe if that was the tactic for today's game, maybe he'd have been better starting again, man, rather than Dessers if that was the plan that he was trying to go for. Just get it up to the strike
He had plenty of opportunities to hold the ball up the night, mate, and he done nothing. He had plenty of balls that come into his chest and his feet, and he done nothing. So I do agree he's raw, but for playing raw in a game in the quarterfinals and hoping he's going to do something, it was difficult to watch. And I agree with the one of the comments there said that if Chelsea doesn't play well, Rangers don't play well, unfortunately, this season.
Well, actually, that's what I was going to say to you, Kenny, and I said this in the build-up, that if we've got any chance tonight, we need Cherny, who's been our best player. We need him to show up. And that doesn't mean getting past his defender every time, but we needed a bit of magic from him. And I know that maybe we're holding Cherny to a higher standard than everybody else, but when you've got the calibre of players that we do at the moment, then we have to, because he's our best player. Nothing came off for him. He was making the wrong decisions. And when that happens with him, then we don't really create.
No, do you know what? I totally agree with you. I think Cherny's the best player we've had all season, but we're not asking him to go and take 3 and 4 on. All we're asking is a wee bit of magic with a nice pass or to bring people into play. I think between the positional movement that destroyed us with Diamande getting moved out, because I thought he was actually all right. He seemed as if he's only one. Raskin wasn't literally doing anything really, but Diamande was trying to do some movement in midfield. And then when the positional movement came and the note got passed, it killed us. But even Cherny was a wee bit confused about it, but he wasn't really finding the pockets again the way we do. If he's on fire, he's running at players constantly, changing direction constantly and making the opposition think. But they knew what was coming. Everybody was passive, very passive. And they knew how to nullify you. And all they done was stand off us, wait till we made a mistake and then just hit us. And I think because Cherny, we're always looking at, we're always waiting for him to do something. And when he doesn't, everybody's looking about as if, who's going to step up now? And we haven't got the player that's ready to step up. We've nobody. And I think that, yes, injuries done us again. I get it. But still, at that level, we should be able to at least dig out at least 2 or 3 chances. And you're looking for your midfield and your strikers to do that, and unfortunately, nothing.
I despise Man U.
Fuck me.
More than
can I not catch a break tonight? I mean, Jesus Christ, Spurs go through fine, I can live for it. Man U are 4-2 down with 10 minutes extra time to go in a fucking 5-4. These jammy bastards cannot stop finding lucky ways of getting into Europe every season. Last year they were hoaching in the league and they get in because they won the FA Cup. This year they're going to win the Europa League and get into the fucking Champions League. Honestly, I'm sick of this in Europe.
All I will say is language, please.
Sorry, but I just can't stand them. They're getting things that don't deserve.
It's a show for everyone, anyone, Connor. Please, language.
Yes. Yes.
So, you know, I'm scunning, Connor. I'm really scunning because, I mean, there's more we can probably talk about, which we'll talk about over the next few days. But where does Rangers season go for here, Connor?
What question? Glad you didn't ask me that.
Well, I mean, look, the fact is, there's nothing to play for. You know, we can't win the league. That'll be wrapped up next weekend, officially, probably, by Celtic, because whether we manage to beat St Mirren or not, they'll probably beat Dundee United. All we can do, really, is just try and win the games we've got left of the season and try and finish at least by winning games of football, if nothing else. I think the first thing that needs to be done, the first order of business, is they need to restore a bit of pride at Ibrox, I'm afraid. You know, and it's not going to be easy because the next game at Ibrox is Celtic. They have to win that, Martin, because they cannot be in the end of 6 defeats in a row at home with 2 home games left to play in the season. It's unacceptable, totally unacceptable. So they have to do that, because at the very least, I mean, it's not a trophy, it's not going to matter much, but they owe the fans something at Ibrox after what they've been displaying of late, and that something wouldn't be a bad way to repay it by beating Celtic again, albeit the mad fact that we could beat Celtic 3 times and be miles ahead behind in the league is insane. There's no danger of being caught by second either because we're 15 points clear. So again, it's just all about, can you go and win the rest of your games, make sure you get a couple of wins at Ibrox, and then move into pre-season where the takeover and such will happen. Hopefully sooner than later, the news will come out on that. And then we have to try and build and go again. It's not going to be easy. Let's not kill ourselves here. People keep saying, the takeover money's coming in, this will be great. There are decisions that need to be made and need to be made correctly. And first and foremost, as a manager, that has to be done quickly because he needs to have time to come in and actually assess things and scout and sign players that he wants to bring in. We then have to make sure that, yes, JD, but I'm talking about, domestic stuff here. But I see your point, but we still didn't win the game. But I think, that's about all he can do. It's one of those horrible things where you just want the season to end now. Let's just blow the final whistle, it'll all be done with it and move to next year. But there's a lot of players that we need to get off the books, and then there's going to be a hell of a lot of signings we need to bring in. I would say to Rangers fans, we might have to just hold on a bit in terms of I don't see next season playing out as a lot of people are hoping or expecting.
I think it'll be better. It will be better in terms of the some of the players that we see coming through the door. But anyway, let's hear from the manager. And I was going to finish up, but the manager's post-match has just come out. So we'll hear from Barry. If he gives us anything to talk about, we'll discuss that.
The European journey comes to an end. Can I just get your reflections on that one tonight?
I'm clearly disappointed. I thought the work ethic was there. I thought our quality at times just wasn't there, which is a real hard one to take. Look, the guys admit that. As I said, since I've come through the doors, that their work rate has always been there in the quality times. But I was on the stage, a big stage tonight, where I felt we had to show a top level game, and unfortunately that wasn't the case.
Did you feel you got a bit more of that in the second half? There were a few chances in the second half there.
Yeah, but I'll go back to the first half. It was a penalty. It's a clear penalty. I seen it at the time. I thought it was a penalty. Went and had a look at obviously the iPad at the side, and again after the game watched it 2 or 3 times. It's a clear penalty and it's a clear red card. And then the second half, in terms of, we were a bit better, but again I have to shuffle apart. There's a few injuries. It's no ideal, but that's part and parcel of football. And then I've just watched Nico's one. It's another penalty. So it never went for us tonight. So listen, we need to lick our wounds. We need to go away and rest and recover and make sure we come to work on Monday morning ready to go for the game at the weekend.
How difficult is that in a game when maybe decisions are going against you? You're having to be forced into changes to adapt to that?
Yeah, I think it changes the dynamic of the game because it's a penalty and it's a red card. So they get down to 10 men. And then, yeah, I don't understand at times some of the refereeing. But listen, I've had a taste of it now for 6 weeks and I'm starting to kind of get used to it, which is disappointing. But they need to start making the correct decisions. That's why you've got VAR as well. I just don't see why it wasn't given in similar to Nico's.
What have you said to the players in there now? How proud have you been of them over the past few weeks?
Yeah, be proud you got at this stage, but be disappointed. Make sure it hurts you because it should hurt you. And we need to, as I said, take this hurt and disappointment into the remaining 5 games of the season.
Yeah, how do you approach the next few weeks now with the players?
Well, I've just said to them, I've set you a challenge. It needs to be 5 wins out of 5, 15 points. Let's finish the season as positive as we can. It's been a really disappointing season. I'm not going to hide away from the fact that it's been that way. Tonight's another disappointment, not just for myself and the staff, the players as well, and the supporters. So we need to go and show a bit of pride the remaining 5 games of the season, and I'll make sure I get that.
Told you Raskins was a penalty. Barry's just as bemused as the rest of us. Quite rightly so, Kenny. He's right. It does change the whole dynamic of the game. But at the end of the day, we're still sitting here. We're out of Europe. And as Barry's saying there, what he's looking for the rest of the season is commitment and desire. And 5 wins out of 5. I mean, I'd love to see it, but I don't know where we're going to get 5 wins out of 5.
I'm going to dig this out for the back of my throat, right? But can I just say, well done to Rangers for getting to the quarterfinals and punching above our weight for a hell of a long time. I agree with that comment in there. So at the end of the day, I've had a wee bit of time to calm down, and for us to get to where we did in the Europa League for the disastrous season with some of the players we've got, hasn't it been bad? It's been a great journey again, and you've got to remember where they put us in the coefficient and where they put us in UEFA standings. So I'm going to actually be a bit more positive than I've been on here, because we're just pissed off, right? But again, we've held the flag for Europe and for Scotland and for our numbers in UEFA. So we've got to take that, there's nothing we can do about it now. It's done. Season's done. I know he's talked about 15 points. He's in dreamland, but I would love that to happen. And I would like to just a wee bit more positivity, the fact that we go to the quarterfinals. And that's a massive trophy we're going for there. And things didn't go against us. I get that. It didn't go for us, sorry. I get it. We're disappointed in some of the players, but are we really all that shocked at some of the players, that turn up then they don't, they turn up then they don't. They've done in about 3 managers, mate. So, yeah, I'll go with the fact that I get he's wanting 15 points. I can't see it for the players we've got. I'm actually looking forward to everything else that's by with this now. Take over, sporting director. But the biggest thing I want to see in Rangers Football Club is the scouting changed and what the hell's happening with our medical facilities. They're the 2 things I want to see happening before anything else, because if you can get any sporting director you want, you can get any manager you want. Unless you can get the decent scouts in there and you're not having Nils Coppin all the time running things, will it change? Not too sure. But I'm just want to say congratulations to Rangers to getting the quarterfinals. It was a hell of a journey, and that's all I'm going to say about that.
Jim Sloan, another super chat. Thank you very much, Jim. Maybe Dessers was wearing a wrestling tap. Quite possibly, Jim. Although you would like to think that a wrestling tap wouldn't have ripped, right enough. But again, as always, Jim, mate.
You ever seen Hulk Hogan?
What's that?
You never seen Hulk Hogan, no?
I know, but his were already cut so that he could rip them, because he lies about absolutely everything.
I bet that's obviously what the referee thought about Dessers shot the night, clearly.
Yeah, clearly. I think this is the comment, Connor, that Kenny was referring to. At the end of the day, we punched up way above our level this season in Europe, considering the squad we have. Quarterfinals is a good run for a team full of players not good enough for this club. I think that's a fair comment, Connor.
I would say so, aye. I mean, look, let's not kid ourselves on here. We were never going to win the Europa League. It would have been nice to get into the semi-final and, as it turns out, playing Man United. That would have been, that was something that I wanted to happen. Battle of Britain over 2 legs, why not? You'd fancy it, but didn't work out that way. Bear in mind the fact that Leon over 2 legs have scored 6 goals and still gone out. Shows you how hard this competition is.
10 men.
Yes, but it shows you how hard this competition is. Now, yes, they were down to 10 men, which probably tie legs, but anyway, it shows you the difficulty of this competition and the levels you have to get to. And Rangers just went at that level tonight. And look, we have punched above our weight plenty of times in the past. The squad in 2022 that got to the Europa League final, right, on paper was not a squad who had any business being in a Europa League final, but they got there. They, by hook or by crook, found ways to win.
Far better than this current squad we've got.
No, I'm not disputing that. They were far better than this current squad, but that was still punching above their weight, even for as good as they were. And Tav, who everybody likes to just absolutely bury and have a go at when Rangers lose games of football, got a golden boot that year. Now, look, his time is coming to an end at Rangers, I have no doubt about that. But again, in our chat, as soon as Bilbao scored the second goal, people bemoaning and, Hall of Famer, my arse and all that sort of stuff. He deserves to be where he is because of the service he's given to the club. And I think people just need to get over that fact. He's never going to be removed for the Hall of Fame. He's never going to be removed for the history books. He's going to be the captain that took us to a final in 22, that stopped 10 in a row, that won 2 domestic cups. Is it a good enough record, all things considered? No, not for where Rangers should be. Nobody's disputing that, but that is where we are. And I think when you analyse it and you take a step back, this only feels as bad tonight because of how poor we've been domestically. I said that earlier and I stand by it. Quarter-final of the Europa League, if you're still in domestic competitions, feels a fairly decent season, all things considered. And again, as Kenny said, we're flying the flag for European football. Look at the group we had. We had a Champions League quality group in the Europa League, a harder group than what they did. And I don't care what somebody want to say. People saying, but because it's a Europa League, it's an inferior competition, so it can't be a better group. Nonsense. We had better teams that we had to overcome. And we lost in 12 games that we played. We lost, I think, just 3, which is Man United. We were unlucky. Just fell asleep at the end. Leon, fair play, they pumped us 4-1. And then Bilbao, over 2 legs, we lose 2-0. I just think that is just what it is. We have came to the end of the road tonight. We'll be back next season. I have no doubt about that. Because that's what Rangers do in Europe. So, we'll be down about it, we'll be annoyed about it, but I think we all have to, at the end of the day, say fair play to the players for, in Europe at least, having a bit of balls and actually getting to this stage when you look at the lack of quality that really is there, Martin, because it's plain to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think you also have to add Fenerbahce into that in terms of losing.
Oh, absolutely.
We lost 2-0 at Ibrox, so you add that in. Just to finish on that wee negative there.
You're right, I forgot about that because we got through that time.
Yeah, no, I get it. But yeah, folks, right, okay, we'll leave that there. Thank you so much for tuning in. Are Chelsea out?
No, Chelsea are through.
All right, okay. Somebody's just put in the comments Chelsea out.
Chelsea were fucking through about an hour ago.
All right, cool. All right. Right, folks.
Maybe it's my Wi-Fi or my fucking...
I'm just going to say one thing to you, by the way, Kenny. Right now, there's a big possibility that in pre-season you're going to be sitting there, arse cheeks clenched as there's a North London derby in a Super Cup final.
Aye, it will be happening.
Right, lads, I'm going to cut this conversation short because it is 5 to 11. People have got work tomorrow. I want to let them go. And I can just ask everybody to do me one favour before you leave. If every single person watching this right now hits the like button, this will be shared all throughout the world. So could you please, if you please, that's a song, by the way. If you please, hit that like button. It would be greatly, greatly appreciated. And even if you're a supporter of a team that isn't Rangers and you're watching, just like it anyway. You might as well. Nobody's going to know. You can make your likes private, I think. So just like it. And make sure you're subscribed as well. It really does help out. The support we've had this year has been absolutely phenomenal. There's Bodo glimpse through as well. So yes. So we'll be back tomorrow, 12:30 for the afternoon rabble. And then we're back tomorrow night as well for your Friday night rabble. So plenty more on the game will be discussed. What's happening with Rangers moving forward. Loads of stuff to talk about. Thank you, Connor. Thank you, Kenny. Thank you for all the super chats tonight. Everybody tuning in. And we'll speak again. Far too